Recording. Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Al Venema,
My name is Daniel Kunis.
and we have a message for the world. The message about God, about America, about judgment. You say, well, who's going to listen to a couple old glutes like you? That's not our problem.
Nope.
I do know this much, that we're not dressed very fancy. And neither was John the Baptist dressed very fancy. He didn't look very good. His hair wasn't cut. His garment was shaggy fur. But he had a message. And God has given us a message.
And so we have goals for this channel, these videos.
First of all, I want to explain our name. Our name is,
The excommunicated ones.
and we are representative of those who have been excommunicated for their belief. Excommunicated from a traditional religious setting. So we have been tossed out. And if you think that excommunicated people have nothing to say for God, then I guess you really didn't want to listen. But we have a message that got us excommunicated in the first place. We are very concerned about the condition of God's church, of God's creation, about wickedness everywhere, wickedness in high places, evil everywhere. And to be honest, we know why that is there. So if we came on like gangbusters and said, this, you'd run quite quickly and not be willing to hear what we have to say. We understand that probably only a few will want to hear what we have to say. And we don't make that our responsibility. Our responsibility is to say what God has told us to say. And we are going to say that. Now, I'd like to start out a little bit with Jesus himself. One of the things we found out when we chose the name the excommunicated ones was that we found out that Jesus was excommunicated.
That we were not the Lone Rangers.
We didn't feel so bad being tossed out on our ear. We felt actually quite joyful about what we found in the scriptures. It said when Jesus went to his hometown, they not only kicked him out of their fellowship, he went to his home synagogue. And they not only kicked him out, they tried to kill him. And in that process of excommunicating him from their synagogue, we find that it was his hometown. It was the people he had done work for as a carpenter. It was his brothers. It was his friends. It was the people he went to synagogue school with. And they all sought to kill him. we have actually taken this to heart. Because if we reveal things here that, quote, some parts of the religious establishment will not like, our life may be on the line too. We have considered this before we started this channel. But God has told us, go into all the world and proclaim the gospel. Even to get you excommunicated. Go into all the world and proclaim the gospel.
And he said that the standard would be that they hated me,
They will hate you. When we look at traditional religion, the one thing we see predominantly, they all hate each other. And every one of them is 100% correct. There is no second fiddles among them. They all know best. I used to say that Jesus was a schizophrenic. He was a schizophrenic. He is a schizophrenic because he thinks like a Latter-day Saint. He thinks like a Seventh-day Adventist. He thinks like a Baptist. He thinks like a Congregationalist. He thinks like a fundamentalist.
or like a non-denominationalist.
All at the same time. Say, well, that's crazy. I know it's crazy. But the truth of the matter is, how is it that that which represents God is so divided and diverse and so argumentative and with the other group? Yet they're all Christ. Every one of them is the messenger of the wisdom of Christ. None of them would say, we're not of God, we're not of Christ. Oh no, we are the messengers of Christ, of God to the world.
Any one of them that you walk into, you would find that they believe they are right. And this other one isn't right. And they have the truth, the other one has less of the truth.
And I don't care if it's the church across the street. They're good. We're better. You know, that's why I say Jesus was schizophrenic. He believes in infant baptism, and at the very same time, he is a complete proponent of adult baptism. Now, how can that be unless one is schizophrenic? Jesus believes in Reformed theology and eternal security, while at the same time being a fervent believer in the teachings of, what is it, Artemis? The guy who didn't believe in any eternal security?
Because they're all great ideas.
Oh, they're all great. And Jesus thinks both ways at the same time. How can these things be? How can the church be what Jesus asked God the Father to do in John 17? I think it's 17. when he said, Father, I pray that they might be one as we are one.
Yet none of them are. And so
They aren't. Even within the own building, they're not one. You got people sitting on the left side of the pew who aren't one with the people sitting on the right side of the pew.
where this one is madder than hell at that one. Yet
Won't even talk to them.
ne'er shall the two meet.
But we both are believers.
So even in one denomination,
One church.
one church, you have they cannot even be one
There.
there.
So when Jesus asked the Father that they might be one as him and the Father were one, the Father said, not my downside. I'm not going to answer that prayer. What kind of a God do they serve? Who even fails to answer the prayers of his only begotten Son? And he said, no.
Or he did. Or he did answer that prayer.
There's only two choices. I'll let you choose. There's one thing more we want to say before we close off this video, and that is the condition of America. Jesus said, you are the salt of the earth. If the salt has lost its saltiness, it is good for nothing, but be tossed out and be trodden down under the feet of men. Now, the purpose of salt was to keep meat from rotting. I just watched a YouTube video this week on how to use salt to keep meat from ever going bad. The salt will so concentrate, so pull things out of that meat, that meat will last for 10, 20 years. But if you add to that meat that which is not salt, that meat will stink soon thereafter. And America stinks. America stinks. We have a church on every corner. And America is like rotten meat. And the world is no better. Oh, we send missionaries to the world. Well, why isn't the meat staying good forever? It ain't. Everywhere I look, the influence of that religious system, and you pick your religious system, has not helped alleviate the wickedness that we find in our government. I don't have to talk very long about how wicked our government is. And our government is wicked because the salt has lost its saltiness. Our nation is about to be destroyed because the salt has lost its saltiness. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about the relationship between religion and rotten meat. And how religion gave us the boot out of it, called excommunication.
Because when salt was tried to be introduced
Into the church,
then they removed the salt.
they removed that which was salty.
When Jesus came to his hometown, he was introducing the truth, salt, into that system, and the system removed it
From
its
him.
midst.
And
we found that in our own life, when we introduced the truth of the scriptures into that system, we were then removed. And so the belief of the scriptures is now no longer really present
in the
in
church,
the church.
pick your church. We will close with this statement. The salt has lost its saltiness. There's a denomination out there called the Assemblies of God. I am not associated with it, never have been. But they have a beautiful name. The Assemblies of God. There is a problem, though. Where God's scripture says, when you assemble, do this. So we have the Assemblies of God assembling, but not doing what God said they were supposed to do when they assembled. And God said, that's perfectly all right. You don't have to do what I said. I really didn't mean that. And what that tells us is that the scriptures are no longer believed. Has nothing to do with that church. That I just used that as an example. I'm very concerned about the destruction of America. And with that, we'll close. Thank you for listening.